way. They have both their carries split pushing the other lanes, top and bottom, and that means they don't have any damage. They're just trying to, you know, force them back with words more so than actual firepower. Either way, Icy does pick up some nice farm here. Will be able to get the Talisman of Evasion if he wants to commit his buyback gold, but at least for the moment, he's just going to teleport back safely, and the rotation will be nothing more than a counter push. And same thing with the Alchemist. Lua down on bottom, hiding out in the trees, does finish his Assault Cuirass. I was talking about the Acid Spray armor reduction being very, very effective for Gyrocopter. Now we see that coming out of Lua with his AC as well. This is going to be a lot of damage that I'm not sure if the Zenith are prepared for. For the first time, I actually feel comfortable with Rattlesnakes taking a 5 versus 5.
Rattlesnake has changed the game plan in the last 10 minutes. If you can open the gold graph for a second. You see those little boxes on the bottom, they stand for the kills. And actually, if you look at where the last red box of a Rattlesnake kill is, that is some time ago. Since then, they've just been farming, and getting killed a little bit. So they're really... They take it a bit slower now.
Yeah.
They're really intimidated. This time it's them getting intimidated by the fighting power.
Big momentum shift. It seemed like there would be no end to the team fights for the first 10 minutes and first 15 minutes, but since then, yeah, it has been a completely different game, trying to build up and get the right item and the right timing to move on forward. But it seems like they don't want to take this as their time. Alchemist and Gyrocopter are still farming out the other lanes, finding farm where there aren't heroes so they can TP in with big items. I think he might buy out when the Butterfly in full can be purchased, but that's not going to be for a little bit longer. He needs about 200 more gold, and this tower is going to drop too quickly. So they're trying to line at the tier 3s, or maybe the tier 2 on bottom, or maybe the Roche, but right now they're not ready for it. Just give them a few more seconds, and they'll be happy to take a big fight.
And at this moment, Spectre is 2 levels ahead of Gyrocopter, so Rattlesnake are falling behind if they don't do anything. There are currently 3 heroes in the base, just sitting there and hoping for the best, and now it's Zenith taking map control, getting out those wards, dewarding the enemy's wards. And Gyrocopter and Alchemist are doing their best farming, but if 3 other heroes aren't farming, I'm not sure if it's worth it. Leshrac at this point has face boots and 2 bracers.
Yeah. Difficult position to be in, most definitely. They do get a gem up for themselves, so they will be able to establish a little bit more map control, maybe take out the 2 of the Observer wards that have been placed in their jungle by Zenith. But the big thing that's coming up next is that Roche being scattered out by the Familiar. They know it's up, they're ready to roll with it, and then it comes down to timing. Looks like Magnus's next item is going to be a refresher long term, but we're not going to have to worry about that for a good few more minutes at the very least. Either way, Ice is farming actually extremely well, considering he is the Magnus mid. He is sitting at 11.2k, so he's staying on par with the Gyrocopter and just a little bit behind that very farm-dependent Alchemist. So working out pretty nicely. We'll see how this next fight comes out, but everything comes down to the Roche. And one unfortunate thing for Rattlesnakes is not only are they kind of hiding inside their base, afraid of a smoke right now, but they also have absolutely no vision on Roche, not even close. Like, they don't have a single Observer ward up. And for all they know, Roche is already, like, it could be 1 HP right now, and they have no idea. Right now, they do see that there is push going down on bottom, so that gives them some understanding of the positioning. But now we see this big pickup on the Radiance, and hopefully I get a minute to talk about that before the next fight. But Radiance is one of the items on Spectre. Of course, Radiance in general, you want it as early as possible. You want it at, like, 20 minutes so you can enhance your farm exponentially. But with the Radiance this timing, it's perfectly fine on a Spectre because she needs to balance 2 things. Damage presence and tankability. If she just builds a harder 5, it's not going to be relevant to take the Spectre until every other support is dead. But by putting the Radiance and putting the pressure there, the 45 damage per second burn in AoE scares them off and means that they have to actually commit to him. Actually committing on in. We do see a skewer coming out, but a big Force Staff keeping Lanham out of danger. Yeah, so trying to balance out that damage, trying to make sure it's continuously putting pressure, and of course, when she has her ultimate up, that guarantees everybody will be hit by it. Not multiple times over, but just once for everyone, guaranteed. So that's going to be doing a lot of damage across the board, and although, yes, it is slightly delayed, around 33 minutes, for a Spectre, that's not too shabby, especially with the fact that she's built up gradually to make sure it. You don't want to just rush a naked Radiance, or you're worthless in that sense. It's a balance of damage and tank, and I think the Spectre is meeting it very effectively.
Do you know that feeling when you just randomly click through the heroes to see if they have any new items, then you suddenly see a Stake Relic, and then you're like, wow, there's going to be a Divine, and then you realize it's Spectre?
Yeah.
It's a little bit disappointing, and Spectre might actually be in trouble.
Oh, big spot for Spectre. Can go for the attempt for Haunt, but getting stunned out too much. There's the Haunt. Can she get the recall off? Where is XY going? He goes down to the bottom. There's that Alchemist charging up the concoction. He gets a kill with the Radiance and with the Desolate. XY taking a lot of hits here. Will the Stoneform be enough to keep him alive? Yes. He survives through the Acid Spray. Will walk away to TP out and live another day. Gets a kill for his trouble. That's what happens when Rattlesnake try to gank their Spectre. And instead, we do see Ice pursuing on to actually finish off the Clockwork as well in turn.
Yeah, that's what I talked about in the draft. In the late game, you can't attack Spectre as a support because you're just gonna kill yourself, because she has effectively more life, more armor, more damage block, and suddenly you find yourself down to a half life because you just cast a spell on her. And now there's 2 heroes there. Shadow Demon is about to respawn because he's just level 10 at this point, so he's respawning fast, but
going deep.
They're just getting, Magnus is just blinking in all the time to see if he can get a skew out, and in just 20 seconds he can do it again.
Yeah. And you were talking about her being all over the map. She just TP'd back to base and got recalled right back to the front line. So yeah, she is absolutely making that presence known.
And now they're just piped, and the pipe is good against all the acid stuff, but they just don't care. They're all really tanky. They have the initiation, they said, but they're still being careful. Because Zenith, after all, is 1 game behind, and if they do a small mistake and suddenly Rattlesnake is coming back, this could be bad for them. So they're taking it careful, and I'm glad, because it's always sad to see those huge comebacks when just one team is playing a bit stupidly in the end because they're like, oh, we have the advantage. There was actually a game in Dota 1 that I think Na'Vi lost because they were diving the fountain of the enemy like for 10 minutes because they were like, oh, this game is over, and the enemy hadn't called GG, and then I think it was against MYM or in an MYM tournament, if I remember it correctly. I'm sure someone in the chat will be like, oh yeah, I know, and then the person is gonna link it. But this was actually one of these games where like, why Na'Vi, why, or whatever team it was, why do you do this? And it's always sad to see those games. So Zenith at this point really playing it safe, waiting for Roshan, and then they're gonna go in and then they're gonna win the game. Not do some half-ass things.
Yeah. Curious to see if they'll actually bother putting the Aegis on the Spectre, or if they're going to give it to maybe Ice. He does have that Refresher Orb up, and as soon as the Roche dies, he will have enough money for the Refresher. So that could be potent if he could come back, make sure that he gets both ultis off, and good ones at that, and then just have XY work with his single health bar, which will be getting more and more substantial now that he's probably going to feel safe to pick up the heart. But given the positioning, it looks like they want to Aegis on the Spectre. Here's the Ravage going across. Doesn't hit on anybody Kabu, but they focused him down quickly. Still have their RP available, but it looks like they want to go and call down on the mid here. They are going to be able to bring down the Spectre. Big kill for them as Luo, Lanham, jump on top of him there and burst him down. The buyback comes out. There's no way to recall in. He has already used the Haunt, so Spectre is out of this fight, and instead they pursue on to bring down the Tidehunter. A Medallion active. There's the concoction, dishing out the damage there. And yeah, they clean this up nicely. Ice, the only one to survive. The buyback committed. Why aren't they going for the Roche? They have to go for the Roche right now. There we go. Medallion active. There's going to be the right clicks. They will be able to take this Aegis instead. So it doesn't matter who Zenith intended to put it on. Now they don't get the opportunity. We see a really good counter engagement from Rattlesnake, and they focused hard. They knew the Radiance was a threat, and they brought in not the supports. Like you said, they'll just get completely blown up by the dispersion, by the Radiance, but they brought in their 2 big heroes, Clockwork and Alchemist, to go right up on top of her and bring her down quickly. So really good movement there. Good focus. I was so confused when I saw Icy run in, just bull rushing the Roche pit to drop the call down, but it was enough to bring her down, and as a result, they take that fight by storm.
So I start talking about comebacks, and suddenly there's this huge fight going in favor of Rattlesnake. I totally didn't jinx that. What's interesting is that Tidehunter and Magnus got totally split from their team, because Spectre was haunting, and then suddenly there were 2 fights going on, one with the Tidehunter and the Magnus, and then there was just Spectre fighting against everyone else, because she was alone in the pit. That's always a little bit the problem if you have someone with a Blink Dagger on your team, or 2 people with a Blink Dagger. Suddenly they're in a fight and you're somewhere completely else because you can't blink up a hill or skewer up a hill. And then Spectre was split, and if there's no Ravage and no reverse polarity to be able to save the Spectre, she can't always run out with her dagger, and she's not that tanky at this point. There's no heart yet, and the Vanguard only does so much at this point.
Yeah. Right now, it really looked bad for them losing the Aegis, losing the team fight like that, but if they just shape up a fighting as a team as a whole, instead of just trying to initiate long range and making the plays, I think they're going to be fine, because they have the refresher up on Magnus, he has a BKB, they have the Tidehunter moving in towards a refresher himself, he'll be able to pick that up pretty soon, and he has the Kraken Shell, so he doesn't need a BKB. So with those two combined together, Ice Eyes and Yamate are just the initiation masters. Like, there is nothing that can trump double Ravage, double Reverse Polarity. Nothing in RS's kit, nothing in almost the entire game. It's just ridiculous what they're going to be able to make work for them, and now they have the Spectre to back it up. So they unfortunately have XY has to save for buyback here because he did not pick up the Aegis, and he's only sitting on 3,400, but he wants to get that Reaver up pretty soon. He wants to get that Heart, or maybe Defusal too, but it looks like Heart because he is saving. And he does actually go for the Reaver, buys out for this. Could be a bit of a risky play, but the important thing is he already bought back, so for the next 2 minutes he wouldn't be needing that money anyway. So he'll probably farm it up very, very quickly, and then buy out for the Heart in full again. And I think he'll be in a pretty good position in that sense, unless there's a really good gank. If Rattlesnakes, of course, gank him up right now, then that Heart will be delayed, his buyback money will be delayed, and 2 minutes from now he won't have the cash he needs. So we'll see if they can actually put the pressure out. But we saw what happened last time. They tried to go for a little bit of 4-man Dota on top of the Spectre.
So how many pro games we see that are 40 minutes long and the goal difference isn't even bigger than 3k? This is like the game we hoped for. This is an even game where both teams are still completely in the game. There is a slight favor on Zenith at the moment, but Rattlesnake just showed that they have the full potential to come back on this. And Gyrocopter is also getting big, and if he just farms a little bit more, we could see a Divine. I'm not sure if the Asian scene favors the Divine on Gyrocopter, but I certainly know the Western scene does. And it's incredibly strong. He decided to go for Helm of the Dominator so he can build into a Satanic, which makes him very, very tanky, and he can also heal up within seconds. So it's basically, if you can attack, it's like having a cheese.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, speaking of cheese, did we have a cheese this time around?
No, it was the second Roshan, so not in this case.
There was so much going on in the pit that I couldn't really focus on.
Yeah, no problem there.
Especially not on 5 FPS. I'm really not sure. Do you have any issues with this? Sometimes I have issues with certain versions of Dota because my laptop should be able to take this, and I really don't know. I have like render quality turned completely down, so I just see pixels moving around.
Ooh, yeah, that's unfortunate.
And I can figure out which heroes it is, so I really need to look into this.
Yeah, most definitely. But no, might be the patch for on your end. I'm perfectly 100% fine, but yeah, just some FPS issues. Hopefully you're not overheating on the laptop or whatever, but hard to say. Anyways, one thing, yeah, about that Helm of the Dominator, Gyrocopter desperately needed that to actually go toe-to-toe with the Spectre, because of the fact that once his BKB expires, he's dealing a very substantial amount of damage to himself. He's dealing, I think, 22% of what Spectre receives, if she's right on top of him, right back to himself, and she doesn't even take that damage, so it takes it off for her. She just straight up is taking 78% damage, and he's going to be the one taking that 22% in turn. So that once the BKB expires, the Dominator is what makes up for that. He gets 15% lifesteal. It kind of counter each other out, but we do see, nope, BKB popped off an Icy, dropping down to 7 seconds, and I gotta say, even though SSS didn't get the pick there, that in of itself is a nice little win.
And Alchemist is buying, I think, an Abyssal Blade. At least he has the Basher up now, and that's going to be even more locked down by Rattlesnake. At this point in the last game, if they found a hero, the hero is just locked down and dead. And with this Abyssal Blade that goes through BKB, the Magnus isn't going to be a threat, because if he BKBs and then wants to reverse polarity, and the Alchemist is outside of that.
Yeah.
And of course it's how much is it? Plus 100 damage. So Alchemist, Gyrocopter, they're starting to deal a lot of damage. And if they lock the Spectre down first, that dispersion and that damage reflect is not around anymore. Yeah. So they really need to focus on her, and they need to be careful with all the Ravages and another Ravage and another reverse polarity. But they need to kill the Spectre first, else they're just going to kill the supports themselves, their own supports.
Good pickup here by the Gyrocopter on top of that. The Abyssal Blade's going to do a lot once he gets that, and Luo might buy out for that entirely, but we do see the Gyrocopter at the Secret Shop. He has the Courier with the recipe up and is 300 gold away from picking up that Reaver. Once he has Satanic in full, that Dominator effect is going to be amplified very, very substantially. He's going to be able to go head-to-head with anybody and possibly even survive I don't know if you can survive through a double Ravage and a double Reverse Polarity, but if anybody can, it's somebody with either a Heart or a Satanic. So getting that strength is going to help him out a ton, and then the Satanic, like he said, it's a free health bar. He'll just be able to get a couple big right clicks off, and suddenly he's back up to full there. So we'll see the timing of that. They certainly have the disables to prevent that from taking much effect, but at least he's getting the HP pool up rather than just going for hard right click like a Divine.
This is really one of these games. If you look at the boxes under the gold graph again, there was so much aggression early on. Everyone was this huge team fight that didn't end for 3 minutes straight. And then there was a little bit of pick-off by Zenith, and now nothing is happening. And in the beginning of the game, I wanted to say, so everyone who's saying the Chinese or the Asian scene is just playing farm, look at this, they're just being so aggressive, and now we're just back to farm, farm, farm.
Yeah, it's definitely a shift in style. I mean, honestly, that mentality is pretty old-fashioned, but they do play conservative. They do play cautiously enough to make sure that their actions are very deliberate and very well-defined. And in this sense, they're doing that just so darn well. Heart, Vanguard up on the Spectre, and yeah, they are just farming it up, pushing out the lanes. And right now, all they need to do is wait out Gyro's Aegis. It has expired of itself. So we have seen that 6-minute park. Actually, now looking at 7 minutes since Roshan, so that'll be up in 3. And they don't have to worry about the Aegis of the Immortals. So they know that they're more comfortable to engage 5 versus 5. And they just have to find their opening, find their opportunity, which isn't the hardest to do when you have so much initiation potential. Just need to get 400 more gold, not even that, for Yamate to pick up that refresher. He's actually already setting out the courier himself to prepare for that. That refresher is going to be big.
One item I'd like to point out, just because we don't see it so often, is the Rod of Aegis and Visage. It's one of these items that has been introduced together with Heaven's Halberd, and which we also don't see that so often, and the Abyssal Blade, and it's just usually not considered as the best item on supports because it takes a long time to build, and you get health from it and intelligence, but it's always difficult to use, and Visage got it this time. He didn't choose to go for the Aghanim Scepter. He wants an extra slow to just lock down those heroes a little bit better, because as soon as they blow all their refresher orbs and ravages and reverse polarities, they don't have so much lockdown and slow anymore. And now they smoke. So now I want to see something happening.
Yamate has refresher, double reverse polarity, double ravage. Anybody that's caught out is dead. 100%, and we'll just see. The Rocket Flare trying to scout it out, but they have absolutely no idea about this vision perspective. Ice has that blink initiation. To be fair, the Tidehunter does not, but the question is whether or not he needs it in this position here. And right now, the Radiant Spurn, they know that they have to know that they're nearby. Actually, we do have this illusion, so that might be faking out a little bit. But now Spectre comes in, shows herself, and the smoke has dispelled. Really, really good movement from Rattlesnake, not being outside their base whatsoever. Gyrocopter hiding up in the trees for a long period of time. Now knows that pretty much everybody's involved and is going to go ahead and proceed to split push that top lane. Being able to pretty much go anywhere he wants. But no, yeah, right now Zenith kind of want to just push in up on the high ground. This is the most dangerous circumstance for them, but it's also the most profitable. If they can just bring down these racks, they can pretty much secure the win here. Fortification already popped up, certainly helps that intention. So XY is just going to stay on the front line. His heart isn't put on cooldown, so they're just going to be staying active, keeping him full HP, tank up the tower, poke and prod, and try to siege it down gradually. But we do see Fortification forced out by Icy up on that top lane as well. Has that TP scroll, looking to come back as soon as he's needed, but at least for the moment trying to make use of the time that Zenith is hesitating.
Tidehunter has all these big items now. He needs to be a little bit careful though with his mana, because in a team fight, if it's boots, his arcane boots are on cooldown, he can't use his bottle, and then suddenly everything costs a lot of mana. All his 3 items in the 3 top slots cost over 100 mana to use, and there's 2 times Ravage, which is 650 in total. Then he wants to use Gush, then he wants to use Anchor Smash a couple of times. He really needs to be careful. That's why he's not using any spells at the moment. He wants to use everything in a fight and then hoping he gets everything off. That's always the problem if you go Refresher Orb on a Strength hero.
Oh, coming on in. Luo is trying to force the issue here. The ultimate comes on out. He is getting stunned up. There's a big reverse polarity started off. Looking for the second one here. There's that second reverse polarity. Han comes on through. Big damage from XY. Going on the front lines. There's Ravage number 1. Looking for a pipe coming out. Looking for Ravage number 2 to go across here. Never mind. Not going to pop it off. Just going for the damage. They force out the buyback. We are going to see the Alk, we are going to see the Gyrocopter come back on in, but their ultis have expired. No Chemical Rage, no call down. Lanham locking on in. He's inside his own cogs, but actually he's going to be able to walk away from this. Cog damage going across. Big right clicks from Icy. Already popped off the Satanic, though. Has to be a little bit cautious. BKB on cooldown as well, but they're running them out of the base. They're holding the line, at least for the moment. They're going to be able to chase on through. Luo does have Concoction charging now. Looking for the best target. Freedom would have been a better one, but they're going to go on Yamate here. Big damage coming across. There is another Ravage with a Skewer. Combining them together. Force stab across. A lot of damage. Icy lifestealing like crazy. Satanic popped. Will he burn through it? XY. Oh, they all drop down. Big Illuminate going across. Big lifesteal. There's going to be a Concoction coming out on top of Ice. Big one single right click to finish it off. Shadow Demon surviving with 80 HP. Tempting fate, tempting death. Ice closes in with the last shockwave to bring him down. No! He survives with 16 HP. Ultra kill for Luo. They committed 2 buybacks for this, but they hold the line. They hold the racks, and they fight against the unstoppable force of double Ravage, double RP. I don't even believe my eyes.
That was totally ridiculous, this Ravage, reverse polarity combination there. I've never seen, I've seen both heroes with Refresher, but never in combination.
Exactly.
They should just pick an Enigma next time around. But the problem was actually they didn't get the second Ravage off. Tidehunter was in a very good position to get it off around the mark where the tier 3 tower stands, but then he was getting cocked and battery assaulted by the Clockwork, and if you're battery assaulted, you can't cast certain spells because they have a casting animation. And that is a little bit too big for the Tidehunter ultimate. So I was on him, and I really saw, you see when a spell is trying to be cast and you have this green line around the icon. And he was trying it multiple times, but he didn't get it off, and then the fight kind of dragged out. And then Rattlesnake were able to buy back some heroes and were able to heal up and chase Zenith down because Tidehunter didn't get the second Ravage up.
Yeah.
And he got it in the end, but it wasn't as good as the position he had in the base, and then suddenly everyone was just spreading out and chasing and dying, and there was the Alchemist, and it was a bit chaotic, especially at 5 FPS with a lot of pixels, so I'm hoping you can give some more insight.
Yeah, if he was trying to spam with the Ravage early on, but okay, we do see the picks going through. The next fight breaking up. They don't have the Ravage up just yet, but they do have these RPs going on, dropping off on Luo solo. They have so many to work with. They want to start it off strong, going with the Haunt, trying to burst down the support. Shadow Demon should fall quickly. There's a big RP. Ice, locking in 3. Big damage coming on out. There's Luo, lifestealing away, going for big flat cannon. Turn this around a little bit. They are doing a lot of damage back, and with the Instilled Concoction, they lock down Freedom. There's going to be Ice on the run, but he can blink on out. They're going to go for a TP on the Magnus, but they've killed the Spectre once. Her buyback's on cooldown, no matter how big she is. She's taken too many hits here. Luo and Icy doing so much damage, but the Concoction is just going to fly a very, very long way. But anyways, wow, they're still holding it. The one big thing, Yamate's Ravage was about 10 seconds on cooldown going on into that. I think the Refresher was a little bit brief cooldown for both of them as well, but they still got the double RP off. The problem was Yamate didn't do anything for that other than the pipe. So without those big Ravages, they couldn't really seal the deal there. I think the first engagement, the first set of Ravage, wasn't that big of a deal. They didn't really need it. They only had like 2 targets in range. One was about to be Big AB, but he wanted to cast it, didn't get the opportunity, and they turned it around once, and now this second time around without any Ravages at all, Rattlesnake doing just too much damage. This dual core paying off so much. They're gonna have they have the Basher, the Abyssal, the BKB number 7 on the Alchemist along with his Heart and Cheese, so all the HP in the world to work with. And then Gyrocopter has that Aegis, Satanic, Butterfly, and BKB just ready to rumble up here, up on the high ground. They'll take the tier 2 and I believe the tier 3 before Spectre arises from the grave. But at least for now, they do have the fortification. They're going to try to hold the line here. As far as cooldowns, Reverse Polarity 1 coming up in 8 seconds, but the Refresher is going to be on CD. So 1 RP, 2 Ravages. We'll see how it plays out here, but they're going to fall back as soon as Spectre comes back up, just doing the damage they can while they can.
Yeah, the problem is really if the Spectre is dead, who's going to deal the damage? They can stun, they can reverse polarity, they can do a little bit with Visage and his Soul Assumption. So short pause out, but if the Spectre is gone, there is not so much. While is it on Rattlesnake's side, everyone is dealing a ton of damage, and even the supports, I mean, Shadow Demon himself is not dealing a lot of damage, but with his Soul Catch, everything else deals 50% more damage. And I want to take a short moment during this pause to look at the supports and feel sorry for their low level, because I myself am a support player, and it's almost an hour since this game started, and most of them, even actually all the supports don't even have their level 3 ulti. So that hurts a little bit.
Yeah, Visage, Keeper Light, Fallen Behind. I mean, obviously, Ice doesn't really care about his recall, but Freedom would love to have some better familiars, and in general, their durability, especially that of the Rattlesnake supports, they've got very, very little. Ghost Scepter will help somewhat, but honestly, how much of this damage is raw right-click? Like, the Leshrac will avoid the Spectre's illusion, is mostly what they're looking at there. Other than that, the Ghost Scepter is just some raw stats, providing some nice benefits there, but yeah, that's painful. And then Shadow Demon himself, he's carrying around the gem with only 1,000 HP. He dies in moments to this Spectre that has 2,800, dispersing it all around. That is, yeah, just painful to see. But it's really, that means that they have to be cautious about what they come into the fight. You can't just run around with your Pulse Nova and do whatever you want. Pretty much, Leshrac has to get a couple stuns off, maybe get some Edict damage up, but not expect too much from himself. Same thing with just one well-timed Disruption, one well-timed Soul Catcher, and a Demonic Purge, and then all Shadow Demon should do is just hang back and spam out the poisons. Yeah, so that is pretty much them trying to make what impact they can, but the players are really this Mag, this Tide, this Alk, this Gyro, and of course the Spectre. You can't forget about her. As far as item progression goes, we do see she went for the Monkey King bar first, which was just to pierce through the Gyrocopter's evasion, because otherwise his evasion plus lifesteal would be too much for her to 1v1. So she gets Monkey King bar, she has more right-click damage single target, but the problem is it doesn't help her illusions, it doesn't give her any more tank. So now she's going back for the Butterfly, getting that evasion up herself, and the question is the timing of the Monkey King bars for Alchemist and Gyro. They will see this Talisman evasion in the next fight, and they'll probably be willing to respond. So if this game goes even longer than it already has, then we could be looking at Gyrocopter and Alchemist looking to pick up Monkey King bars and nullifying that item pick to an extent.
And we had a short pause out from Zenith. They didn't quite give a reason. There was no disconnect, so maybe they just needed a second to find out what to actually do against Rattlesnake. Just coming back from this, they were really pressured. We talked about how 3 heroes were hiding in the base and couldn't really do anything, and suddenly they're rolling over Zenith again. And it's, I mean, let's bring up the gold graph again. It's, what is it, 1,000? In a game like this? This is crazy.
Oh gosh, yeah.
This is really, it's one of these games where you just, in the end, when this game will end, we will lean back and ask ourselves, what actually happened here?
Yeah, exactly. Because looking at this, like, a caster's generally like, oh, well, eventually they have this late game, or the momentum shift is showing this direction, but as you said, there's not much momentum with the gold being as even as it is, and then it comes down to Roche engagements, things like that, but then you look at the teams, and you're like, okay, well, this draft, you have a Refresher Tide Hunter with Mech and Pipe, you have a Refresher Magnus with BKB Blink. You're like, okay, well, that can't be defeated. Then you look back to the other side, and you're like, okay, well, you have a Heart, a Basher, an AC Alchemist. He's going to get even more farmed. He's level 25. You have a Gyrocopter with Satanic BKB Butterfly. He's level 24. You're like, oh, that can't be defeated. Just too much. And then just like both sides seem to be unstoppable, but that's where the Clash of the Titan really comes on through, is when both teams have this level of potential, and every single kill counts. The little lowly supports, the big pickoffs, whatever it is, right now it all comes down to control, movement, positioning, and timing as far as how they initiate here, because honestly, I don't favor either of them in the team fights. Like, it's so risky going in for any single 5v5 clash, but the moment they see an opportunity, they have to take it, and so it's very, very difficult, high pressure, and that's why, so yeah, some people might be dialing up Merlini, but I think take a tactical pause, take a breather, 2 minutes, figure out what the hell's going on with this game, because honestly, it is a doozy for me to even cast, and I can't imagine what kind of nerves is going through the minds of these players here.
Yeah, and at this point of the game, almost 60 minutes in, it comes so much down to buyback. Because we talked about it, the Spectre can buy back and either haunt in or get recalled in, and if that possibility is down and Rattlesnake can buy back everyone and teleport in everyone with Boots of Travel, for example, then it's just a huge difference. And at this point, 2 heroes have buyback, because either there's no gold...
Oh, we're gonna get initiation! Oh, it's just a Spectre illusion. Oh.
Now I have this song in my head.
Exactly.
You know that
have Antimate sing it up.
Oh, yeah.
Have Antimate sing it up. But, you know, it was just a facade. They got faked out. Not costing anything, but they were so hopeful. They're like, let's get on that Spectre. But no.
And the carries are actually maxing out in slots. The Spectre has a Talisman of Evasion, so she's gonna buy a Butterfly, or maybe even the Heaven's Halberd against either the Gyrocopter or the Alchemist, but I don't think so. I think it's just gonna be a standard Butterfly. And then she's full. What is she gonna do? She can still buy Boots of Travel, but apart from that, no more items on her side. So we're reaching very, very late game. where everyone is just farming and hoping to get the buybacks back, and then there's going to be a huge team fight, everyone's buying back, there are going to be a couple of racks falling, and then there's just going to be 10 minutes more farming, more buyback gold getting.
Right now, storing it up, buyback up on Spectre, obviously, to compete. Alchemist and Gyro need to get some of their own. But one thing that's difficult for Rattlesnake in this position is the defender's advantage, and the natural one where, of course, buybacks, obviously you're responding to your fountain, you can TP back to your own front line. Actually, Skira comes on through Luo, he has the BKB, won't pop it just yet, they want him to take the cooldowns, they're ready for him to be on the front line. Ice, force staff out of a hookshot coming from Clockwork, no cogs to connect, they go back on out, they just take the tier 2, but Spectre on the mid, taking down the racks, right-clicking them down very, very swiftly. Will it be enough right here? The TP's coming back on through. There is going to be possibly an attempt to just reality back on down. Yeah, he gets reality right back on into Icy. Going to bring him down. Popping off the Aegis. He has buyback just barely. Barely getting enough cash for it, and right now is going to have to be on the run. No, gets RP'd. Gets locked down. Too much damage. And actually the graph, once again, a little bit wrong. Thinking he was dead at the time. But actually just temporarily. It means that he doesn't have buyback. That's the problem here. It costs 1900. He only has 1675. He's going to have to wait this one out, and that is a long time. A level 25 Gyro, 80 more seconds to wait it out, and that can cost them. Not the Roshan, but possibly these mid racks here.
I was just checking Spectre's inventory because I thought she bought a diffuser blade level 2, but actually she hasn't used a single purge what is it called? A purge...
Charge, yeah.
Charge, yes, sometimes I'm missing words. Yet, it's still 8. So that's really interesting because, you know, also in pubs there are those kind of people who buy drums and don't use a single charge the whole game. And then there are those kind of people who buy it and use it within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And Spectre seems to just like to right-click it and not use it.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. I mean, she tells us how I already have the lockdown. You mentioned the Atos that was previously picked up and things like that. Yeah, anyways, no, we're going to see a big initiation here. Luo doing a lot of damage to XY. Going to charge up the concoction. BKB popped off, doing a lot of hits. Look at that attack speed come from Luo, but actually just going to throw out the concoction really, really quickly and fall back from here. That is a low HP Spectre, 900. The heart, she has to get out of the acid spray to get the heart back off cooldown, but they want to also take these racks. It's a tough decision to make. She's making it, going in the front line, saying, screw it, I'll buy back as needed. She has the backup. She has the Ravage, the RP soon. They take the mid racks. They're going to look at the bottom one now. It's exposed. It's vulnerable. It's sitting on only 1,500 HP apiece. They have to go for it in a very short while. Gyrocopter going to come back on in. He will have buyback if he just gets a single kill. So they actually will have everybody able to jump back on in. And Clockwork knows it. Landham going in so darn deep. Just trying to keep them here so the Gyrocopter can come on in. He gets the cogs coming on XY. He's going to be force stabbed out. A lot of damage coming on top of him. Big right click coming from Luo, but even bigger. There's the Ravage. There's the RP. The second one coming from Ice, locking him in. They even get that second Ravage. So much damage. Luo taking some big hits. XY though, can they bring him down? They pop off the cheese. He's still up. Oh my goodness, they're still alive. They're still fighting, trying to bring down XY. So many hits. Can they finish it here? XY still lives. He's still up here. He survives through everything. And they take them all down. Buyback from Alchemist. God. The buyback from the Leshrak. But Gyrocopter doesn't have it. Oh no.
I was just sitting here and shaking my head while they were just stunning and using their refreshes. This is crazy. And the Alchemist didn't care. He was taking so much damage and he just tanked it up. And now he bought back and he's...
Oh my goodness.
What is he actually doing?
He's going in. He's going to get a good stun off on Yamate, trying to save the racks here, but he knows he can't fight with a Gyrocopter. He has to imagine they don't have a Gyrocopter in this game. Right now, it's all them, and they're just going man mode in. BKB's popped off, going off. The Clockwork Hook will hit on Ice. They should bring down the Coddle, but he himself will buy back right back on into it. So they do force them out, but in the top lane, I didn't even catch it, but the racks have fallen by themselves. The creep wave pushing it in to lose all 6 racks. This is mega creeps, and this is so tough to come back from. If you're going to come back from it, you might as well have a Gyrocopter. Oh, nice cogs, countering out the BKB TP of Ice. Throwing the concoction. They could actually go for a pick here. They can do this. Here comes XY to try to stop them. The Stoneforms will help out quite a bit as well. They're still closing the distance. Leshrak doing some hits, but not enough. Kabu's going to get turned on. There's going to be a big soul assumption out onto Clockwork, but it's actually going to be the death of Coddle in the end. Getting a little bit too in over his head, and now they are dropping quickly. But as I was saying, Mega Creeps, they're tough, but Gyrocopter can crack them. The problem is they've lost so many team fights that even while as they're defending, I'm not so sure. So these Mega Creeps will come on through with this range rack to kill, and that's going to be it. There is going to be a couple more right clicks, and there is those Mega Creeps. They're not going to call GG. They have to wait this out. They've fought too long, too hard to actually call GG here. So we have the Mega Creeps up, but it's 62 minutes in, and I believe in Rattlesnakes. They have still an opportunity. They still have a window of chance. Closing in on top, they bring down the Tidehunter as far as trapping the cogs. Might be able to actually pick him off here. He doesn't have buyback. He doesn't have it for quite a bit. So 80 seconds without the Tidehunter, and possibly without the Spectre. She'll buy back if she needs to. But right now,
she has a lot of gold.
Stacking up on 8,300. Oh my goodness.
It was 9k at some point, so if you take down the whole base, suddenly you have a lot of gold. But like I said, she can't buy any more items, and she actually used the diffuser blade charge.
Oh my goodness!
But so that must have turned it around right there. And now, I don't know. I think I saw on the Too Good stream once that Bruno had some fact that only 0.5% of all games where more than 2 set of wrecks are down come back. So I don't know about the statistics with Mega Creeps, but this looks very, very unlikely statistically speaking. But I also believe in Rattlesnake. I really like their playstyle, their aggression, and now Alchemist is just going into Roshan.
That Spectre's down. This is their only chance, but luckily it's a pretty big one. They get Aegis, they get Cheese. Question is, what do they drop for it? They still want that Basher because of his amazing attack speed. I mean, he's attacking over twice per second right now, easily. And it's going to get big. But goes for the Cheese here. The Aegis is picked up on Gyro, so they don't avoid either of them. But right now, Gyrocopter doesn't have a TP. Fortunately for him, he's probably going to have plenty of time spent in base. He's not going to have to really worry about jumping back to the safety of his very, very essential buildings, because literally that's what he's going to be camping for the next, I don't know, 5 minutes or something, until they can hope for Zenith to slip up. They can hope for Zenith to dive in, lose all their heroes, and they can just push him for the win, literally killing one Rax and then going straight for the tier 4, straight for the throne.
They have the damage for that, definitely. But they also need the fight for that, and at the moment, Mega Creeps are dealing so much damage. The Leshrac keeps running back to base and now picked up a 4-star, but support heroes can't do anything against Mega Creeps because they just get killed. So they need, if they want to push out, if they win a team fight, let's say they win a team fight big time, if they want to go for the GG, they need at least 2 heroes to deal with the Mega Creeps.
That is a tough order for them to try to take here, but we'll see exactly if it works out. Right now, 3,800 on Spectre. She bought out the BOTs, but otherwise it's just keeping that buyback. The most essential thing for her right now is keeping active in the fights. I was talking about the defender's advantage a little bit before we broke out, but what I was talking about there was the fact that Alchemist and Gyrocopter can't push in and expect themselves to have 2 lives, other than the Aegis and the Cheese. Because buybacks, they're going to buy back in their own base. They don't get to do that on the front lines. They don't get to do that in the Radiant enemy territory. But Zenith do. They have Haunt, they have Recall. They can buy back twice and still be up on these front lines, 7v5.
There's no sentry. They can't see this coming.
Oh, well, Spectre is out.
Put a sentry up.
They know that Spectre's not by herself. They know it.
Yeah, obviously. It's too obvious. But there is a Hex up on Visage. I don't know how far along it has been up there, but that's certainly gonna help. And now, oh god, if I was in Rattlesnake's shoes, I'd just die of a heart attack, because this is just so full of pressure.
Yeah, the second...
They can lose within seconds now.
Magnus, Tidehunter, eyes on them. Where are they at? We see XY getting caught in the center of everything. Bursted down hard. She's going to drop. She has to buy back to haunt back in. She's going to reality right on top of Luo here, trying to do the damage, but no. Yeah, there she is. Going on in. Right on top of Luo. There is going to be the Gust. There's the Defusal. Logging on Gyrocopter. They will get the kill here. He does have Aegis, and then buyback after that. So 3 lives for the Gyrocopter, but Luo right now disabled up. There's the Skewer. Logging down for the RP number 1. Going in for the RP number 2. Nice Force Staff. Pulling him apart, but he picks them right off and sandwiching them together. Ravage comes on through. Second Ravage available. Buyback from the Alchemist. Buyback from the Gyrocopter. They're back in this. Cheese still up on Luo. They want to hold the line. The tier 4 is dropping rapidly. They just go for the throne. They go for the GG. Big flat cannon. Right click coming on through. Now we see Luo up in there. He actually gets halberded up. Can't do anything. Yamate taking big hits. Gets a nice Ravage off on everybody though. Skewering together. They get him across. Icy gonna take a fall here, and that's a full team wipe. That is gonna be the game. GG called out. An amazing game. 67 minutes. Zenith take game 2.
Wow, what can I say? What can I say? There was a nice chance of coming back for Rattlesnake, but in the end Zenith just with those refreshers, with the Spectre, with the ability Spectre has, just able to take it down. And we're gonna see a game 3, and I'm really interested if we're gonna see another Alchemist in there. So I can't wait to get into that game 3.
Absolutely. That was just insane. That was a ridiculous match between these two amazing teams. Rattlesnake took game one off, but Zenith doesn't let them pull a fast one on them. They move forward, and despite a very similar draft coming on Rattlesnakes, they play a different style. They get Spectre to late game, and this carry cannot be beaten. I'll see the day when maybe Dusa comes on the board, but for right now, Spectre takes that late game by storm, does a major impact, does such pain on the supports, still ending the game at level 16, level 17, with 10 deaths apiece. But the big thing there is, of course, the backbone, Tidehunter and Magnus, all the disables in the world. Beautiful play by Ice, grouping them together no matter what they tried. They tried beautiful force staffs to pull apart despite being disabled. They almost got it, but Magnus just a little bit too good. Ice, pulling them together, getting all the disables in the world, and finishing this off for the win. Beautiful game. Happy. It was my honor to be able to cast this. Like, this was one of the better games of Dota. As far as clutch late game, you can't get better. Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning on in to Beyond the Summit for this AMD Premier League Game 2. Going on into the third game in just a minute here, but hopefully you guys enjoyed the commentary. I myself am Blaze. You can check me out on twitter.com/blazecasting, and you can check out Maruna here, my co-caster, at twitter.com/Maruna_Dota. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and yeah, we'll move on into this final game.